the vibe, but because of how neny has really changed as a player, he used to be that person that was aggressive, always looking for kills but always dying, but now he's more of that CSing, scaling to late game person.
And Kanavi's already lost that Vi as well, something looked at as a Rek'Sai, which is a bit of a throwback. Kanavi has been like Kindred, Rek'Sai, even the Shaco made a small appearance previous years. He's got a wide champion pool, so not too worried about the double jungle ban to start us off, but we do get what we expected. However, in a different order, Kitty, the priority here doesn't go to that bot lane, doesn't go to the Varus. They get Jayce nice and early.
Yeah, Jayce very nice and early. I mean, the Varus is going to get denied from the side of JDG because those two are just the best in slot once Zeri and Lucian are off the table. Of course, you can always respond with the Jhin paired up with AShe, which fits pretty well with Ruler. But of course, like you've been saying, this Jayce already responded with a Jax. Absolute Giga Chat champion being locked in once again. But like I've been saying, JDG, they're just saving that counter pick for 369.
Again, might be a bit of a mistake because a lot of teams against IG so far have been banning away that Jax. Talked about it at the start, 63% of the time, that Jax is off the table. JDG willing to risk it for game number one because they know they have a matchup. And Kitty, it's exactly as foretold, right? It's a carry matchup versus 369's Gragas, the exact direction we expected out of this 1v1.
Yeah, that does mean JDG's bottom side is kind of going to have to make up for that damage since you are relying on the Gragas and a utility jungler since it's still patch 13.1, guys. I know it's very, very sad, but I'm expecting some ADCs and mid laners getting banned out here. Of course, Del, we've seen a huge champion pool coming out of him as well, where we've seen the Yod, but mainly I think IG, when it comes to their playstyles, like you've mentioned before, it really depends on the side lane and how Dove can get his hands onto a champion that can pressure the side lane, while An and Wink kind of just sit back and relax while their side lane carries.
So far, we can look at what Dove's played. The Azir, which is a good ban away from JDG. Things like the Silas, the Kassadin. Kassadin going to be the final ban, as you said, to play those side lanes. Kitty, the only other thing I can see that is up and available is that Rise, but JDG will have the option to take away this fourth pick and maybe deny IG a little bit further because IG are only banning away junglers themselves. Not really worried about that final pick to come through, whether it can be a flexibility for the mid laners. They're going to take away the Akali from Knight just in case.
Ooh, I mean, that was a pretty smart ban. They may perhaps expect this Gragas to flex to the jungle, but like you've been saying, that Rise pick is still available, but we've already seen that Jayce is a traditional counter to the Rise, where he just gets lane party in the first 15 minutes, and especially once your items are online, the Rise can't really match that in a team fight unless you play for those side lanes. So especially with Knight on this Jayce, I'm not too worried about the mid lane matchup. Dove does need to have a really good response to this, however, because I think Gideon and Dove are really the lifeline for the early game of IG.
But on the side of IG, if you want to talk about early lifelines, let's talk about Arn and Wink for a second because it's a Varus support again. Third time that Wink has played Varus support. This guy, if he doesn't have cheese grater abs by the end of this split, I'm going to go help him work out because he deserves it with the energy he's brought into these games.
Look, I've always gone with the rule where if your name doesn't start with K and end with area, these ADCs on support's looking a little bit scary, but of course, like you said, Wink, third time on this Varus support. It does okay into the AShe lane, but I just think AShe is a better version of Varus. You do have a little bit of anti-heal built into you as well, but of course, paired up with this Draven, a lot of damage coming out of the bottom lane of IG, and especially with this Renekton being locked in for the mid lane. Just so much early game already for this first game. It's
going to be huge. I want to talk about it in a second, Kitty, because again, against JDG's comp, there's going to be a bit of a dichotomy here. You already talked about the flexibility of the Gragas. You nailed it, spot on. Gragas running into the jungle, Sion going top, and another part of the flexible comp of JDG is that Jayce running towards mid, Kitty. Run me through how this works, because JDG, I feel like we're a bit five-heading in draft.
Five-heading, of course. I mean, the Gragas does end up in that jungle slot for Kanavi, but I'm a bit worried since we've already seen Kanavi playing extremely aggressive in that early game. So this time around, Knight having that ability to get lane party early in the game, maybe he is able to rotate and play around Kanavi where he isn't able to bleed early into the laning phase, of course. But the two team comps for this game one, very, very frisky. Both supports are just ADCs stuck in 13.1.
Which are another mid-tier team, but Invictus Gaming are hyped up for good reason. This team brings the blood, and as you're saying in the draft, this comp wants to get rolling in game number one as IG try and run through these lanes, run over JDG, and give us that big old mouth-open experience, gore-dropping, Kitty. You know what I'm talking about? When IG come on the rift, man, this team surprises the hell out of you.
I mean, I'm really surprised, and they're coming out in this game one with the most aggressive early game champions we can imagine in League of Legends, with Renekton, Elise, and Draven all being locked in for this side of IG. I just expect so many tower dives and Gideon just going for the kills and lane ganks before we hit the later game of the stage, because we already know that Sion is an absolute menace once we hit these team fights, and as he gets his items online, I'm afraid that unless YSKM is dealing the damage, 369 isn't going to die. Yeah,
I think again, the Sion, again, a brain play here it feels like, as IG going to find Knight out in the invade. Minions have spawned though, so Dove and Knight have to go back. A bit of a health bar advantage that Dove can play through mid, Kitty, as this invade is going to turn into a 2v2. Wink getting targeted out, missing Hail of Blades. Great trade here. Means Wink walks to lane as well with half HP.
Yeah, we do see the Gragas starting his own red buff, so JDG getting this lane priority just means Wink is already half HP. Got to chug some health pots, but just the amount of presence from this AShe and Jhin lane, we already know why this is such a potent combo going into this game one. And Wink has to be really careful because he only has one pot left. He doesn't play it too carefully. I mean, Gragas, he is pathing towards that bot side and potentially looking for a gank early on.
You did talk a little bit about, you know, keeping the tempo, the sway of JDG going on. Walk me through a little bit about Gideon and what he plans to do with this topside pathing, because it looks like right now this Elise is going to top, as I just mentioned, but bot looks so important for IG.
Yeah, I mean, locking in that Draven just means you are playing towards that bottom lane. Gideon getting the red and Raptors already wrapping around. You see Ruler and Missing so pushed up, but this is going to be a gank in the mid lane, a 2v2 perhaps.
Knight was already damaged earlier on. He's healed that back out, but it's Kanavi, I believe, spotted out now. Dove gets knocked back, but a great slice and dice away. Gideon just shows up here to say how's it going, and Knight is going to be targeted down the cocoon, staying very ambitiously. And Gideon just backs off after a nice trade with the enemy mid.
Gideon taking that trade was so scary because you are tanking 3 waves built up from Knight, and you still get a bit of damage onto the mid laner of JDG, of course, but it does help out Dove in this laning phase when he is struggling the first few levels. Kanavi trying to get in the way, but Gideon having more ideas as Knight is no mana.
God, I love this already. Again, the aggression we wanted to see. Gideon, another part of this new IG that's been coming out clutch. Kanavi walks into the brush, but it is the Gragas earlier on. So Gideon's not going to have the kill threat. Dove moves over as well as Knight has to back away and now walk to lane as Gideon is pivoting for the Scuttle Crab Kitty and looks like also threatening with the help of bot.
They are really low though. It was okay because Gideon did just instantly smite it and take the Scuttle Crab away. But like I've been saying, I think Gideon, just having this Elise in this game one, he should be playing more towards the bottom side of this map because YSKM is just constantly going to be pushing in 369. And diving a Sion in this current meta is looking a little bit tough to pull off because even if you do kill the Sion, obviously you have the passive where he revives and he can just slack you as a 1-for-1 trade. So that's something risky to be taken for the side of IG.
But hang on, we got to look away from top because mid is happening again. Knight pivoting towards his jungle. The pings are coming down. They're saying, hey, is Kanavi nearby? Dove trying to lure him in as Gideon now spotted out, takes the Hex Gate. Knight not going to burn the flash here. In fact, out of range of the cocoon. And Gideon just moves away again.
Knight's been playing very disciplined, already dodging 2 ganks from the side of Gideon. So he's getting a little bit desperate, especially on this Elise, that you have to look for those early ganks when you're paired up with a Renekton and Draven. He's going to look for a second gank or third gank towards his bottom lane though. Summoners are available.
Who needs camps? Kitty, who needs camps at this point? Gideon doesn't care as bot and the 2v2 are doing fine just themselves. Wink's damage still immense, and Gideon's not going to be able to find an angle, but he's there just in case. Kanavi now looking for something through mid. Dove pushes up, but the trade, again, just going to come through as Kanavi's going to get spotted out. This is the most I've seen out of junglers in the whole split, like combined into 5 minutes.
He's back mid.
Of course he is. Gideon doesn't need camps. Just going to help with the shove, it seems, so Dove gets a nice reset. Oh my god.
Gideon finally hits level 4, but this top wave is looking humongous. 369, of course, going to be backing here, but yeah, just from the first 5 minutes of this game, Gideon really struggling to find any ganks onto the side of JDG, not even burning a summoner. And once, well, the first step is to burn a flash, of course, and once that summoner is down, you just repeat gank, and that's your way to gaining a lead in that early game, but they're struggling.
Yeah, but Kitty, on your point, exactly right. That struggle has led to a CS lead in jungle for Kanavi. Kanavi's been mid much less, has now picked up an extra level. Hextech alternator in the inventory as well, and about 2 camps in the lead. Gideon has about 4, 5, there'll be 5 camps in total once that red spawns to clear out. And Kanavi's now free to move across the map yet again. Maybe towards mid, maybe towards the invade, as he seems to be going straight to enemy Raptors.
He's looking for some camps, perhaps putting just some vision down, as this dragon is going to be a high priority for especially the early game team comp that IG has decided to lock in for this game 1. But missing, obviously having a lot of push and resetting earlier on, is going to be paired up as Wink is a little bit caught out of position here.
And that ward from Kanavi, it might net dividends here as a barrel roll over the wall. Wink gets bursted out, Arm's joined in as well. There's a flash, Dub's already into ulti, forcing the summoner out of night. They finally get it, even without the jungler. IG group up as 3, and this mid lane is the best party I've ever seen.
So much action already in the first 6 minutes. Gideon is finally here, and we don't have the flash for Knight this time around. So can they finally look for the kill that they've been looking for this early game?
Well, Arn is getting low at half HP. Wink gets some poke over as Knight joins in. That shock blast dodged away nicely by Dub. All around this dragon. You know, I've let loose house parties when I was 18 at the end of high school. Nothing compares to what we just witnessed. The Kitty, I guess JDG are going to amp it up another level as they try and start Dragon, but it will be on vision.
First dragon does go to the side of JDG. Kanavi just has the Hextech alternator already available in his item slot from just the pure amount of camps he was able to get in the early game compared to the Elise. But like you've been saying, right, IG desperately trying to force these 5v5s early on into the game, but JDG, with their team composition being locked in, they have so much range to play with the Jhin, the AShe, especially with Knight having the ability to poke before these team fights is going to be a huge deal to how JDG wins these 5v5s.
I like that you pointed out, you know, the Jhin and AShe particularly, because Missing will be getting level 6 soon enough. Curtain Call will come through from Ruler as he is level 5, so definitely something to consider, as right now IG's bottom lane sitting without gold themselves. Black from Wink gets changed to corruption. Arn walking forward, heals up, wants Missing. Cash in, it's only 2 autos, but it feels like the weight of the world. First blood to Arn with a chat move from Wink.
I'm really confused, Hysterics. Why is Wink level 6 and Missing is level 4 on this AShe?
True.
It's just that support, right? He's the one not CSing, but he's even a level above Arn. And he was able to get level 6 and just get that CC onto Missing, where he was just caught off guard. And of course, the first blood goes into the hands of Arn on this Draven, so he's going to have a huge spike with that serrated Dirk and Sheen going into the item slots.
But again, that cash in, I mean, that's huge. As Wink, you're right, hits level 6 first and just exploits the level leaks.
Where did he get this level lead? He flashes over and gets
He was mid for 10 years.
Yeah, he was mid for... I mean, even Missing was in mid for 10 years. But of course, really nice trade over for Arn as he picks up his cash in. And this ball lane is going to get rolling as the Draven is very happy with that first blood.
As you said, the Sheen comes through. We've got lifesteal now as well. Gideon setting up the Cuckoo, not going to land as Herald is the next target. Good deadly flourish from Ruler as he enters the Rift as well. 5v5 now being set up, but a health bar disadvantage for Invictus Gaming as YSKM's coming in. Wants a critical strike, gets it! YSKM! He was quiet, but now we should know him again. Locked on down, the counter engage from JDG is great. That's a 1-for-1. It's top for support now as IG are losing some of their damage. Curtain Call good, but this is the last 2. Gideon. Barrel roll though as Arn now sits towards mid looking for the autos, but everyone from JDG on top of this Draven. He's got a lot of damage though. His chains of corruption again. Netting dividends, another cash in. Go to the bank with those interest rates, you're sure to exploit.
Name a more iconic duo than YSKM and landing 3-man stuns on this Jax. He initiates the entire team fight and finally gets something rolling for the side of IG. But of course, it was a 2-for-2 trade, so not too worth. But this Draven not dying just means they are way more ahead with the Eclipse being picked up. 3-man stun in this choke, really well played from the side of YSKM. But obviously, once you flash in, once you E in, you don't have a way out, and he gets instantly bursted. I really like the follow from Ruler as he activates the ultimate, and it allows 369 to land that CC onto Gideon. And they do pick up another kill, so it was a 2-for-1 trade in the very end, with the Herald and Control just going towards the side of JDG this time around.
Arn just had the smoothest sidestep from 369 as well as, you know, this bottom lane Kitty we talked about, them getting exploited in the top esports series. But every other series, they have been core carries. They've been so much better than last year. Wink, the old AD of IG, now turned support. Arn, the new AD of IG, now turned Chad. And he's 2-0 in this game with an Eclipse and a Sheen already picked up. Arn, yet again, the driving line here for IG as they move to 1K gold lead and have a bit more control this early game as we wanted to see with this composition.
Yeah, JDG really struggling to pick the fights that they win because Missing is still on this level 5 where that level 6 power spike is just so crucial for the side of JDG's bot lane. We already saw that Ruler had that follow-up from his ultimate earlier on, but imagine if they just had that AShe ult available, but unfortunately she is currently 0-2-0 and just not having the flash available, and with the amount of mobility that IG has, Missing is having a very hard time in this early game.
Level 6 at least now hit, so we're going to see what Missing can do with the Enchanted Crystal Arrow because Dragon's up in about a minute. JDG were able to get the first one, but Kitty, because of that last fight, IG do have the Herald. They should have some kind of advantage while plates are up and while that objective spawns up within their reach. We'll see how they use it because right now, Arn and Wink are sitting comfortably towards mid, and that feels like free plating towards the Draven, who's already so far ahead of Ruler.
Yep, Eclipse in his item slots already at 11 minutes into the game, but like I've been saying, Knight and Ruler really need to play with their range in these team fights and get the poke onto Arn where he isn't able to participate in these team fights, or at least make it a 4v5 as one of them is too low to really join in on the fight, and then they can engage with the AShe ultimate and look for a pick.
Wink almost having flash available. I think something to note, not sure if it's going to be available for the Dragon, as Wink has been flash ulting off a cooldown at this point. Kanavi moving back in towards River as 369 and Knight on opposite sides of the map dealing with waves. YSKM doesn't have TP, but 369 does, as IG set up that Herald towards mid, and Arn is going to be moving up so he can be the partial benefactor as Gideon placed it down. As, I guess not, Gideon gets all the gold. Never mind, forget Arn.
We can't forget Arn though, he is the absolute carry of the IG right now. We already see the CS differential coming out of YSKM and 369 in that top lane, but of course you have to really juggle the vision here in this bottom lane where 369 is already rotating here, and Arn, he does have the flash available, so if he does get a sound onto his space, he has to play it very, very clearly. Yeah.
As you said, 369 walking down instead of the TP. I mean, YSKM without the summoner walking there now. It's a slow Dragon, but IG are going to be the ones who are playing second fiddle. As JDG just looking to take this down. Wink trying for a steal. There's the barrel roll, the piercing arrow, and eventually out of the quiver, JDG find themselves a second Dragon, Kitty. And when we're talking about these compositions, this early stacking of the bottom lane objective is quite nice.
Yeah, super important, but this is all just a snowball from how Ruler and Missing were able to get that lane priority in that level 1 2v2 trade where Wink was poked to half health, and they've been playing with this priority all up until this 13 minute where 2 of the first Dragons does go into the hands of JDG, and they are threatening Soul Point at this mark.
Again, it'll be a Cloud Soul too, so it'll be a nice little movement speed buff here for people like Kanavi. Missing as well, with Enchanted Crystal Arrow being off every 5 seconds. As IG still hold that gold lead here in the early game. Kitty, I want you to talk me through as turret plating goes down now, as to how IG want to play out this mid game. Because again, we talked about their damage sources really ramping up the snowball they want to have in this game. Walk me through map state and what IG need to do to kind of ensure control.
I mean, it's really hard to beat IG because the 2 main carries of JDG has a cleanse available, also having the flash as well. So you're gonna have to burn these in the first try of trying to make something happen in this mid game, and then you have to redo that and hopefully and pray that the execution is there and you get these kills into the pockets of Arn, because you already see how strong he is with this Eclipse, but IG just isn't really playing towards this item differential, and I'm afraid if you just keep scaling up against a Jayce and Jhin AShe, then you're kind of playing into the win condition of JDG.
You also talked about the Sion as well. Damage is going to be hard to deal, especially for a Draven. As we go towards mid once again, players just grouping up, because Arn and Wink are the priority focus here from JDG. Knight looking for that range you were talking about as well, Kitty, as they start assessing onto the turret. Flash from Wink actually nails down onto Kanavi as Knight gets out of the range in the nick of time. But that's the flash once again off a cooldown from Wink to try and find a pick, as JDG has just repelled that.
Yeah, that was a force of a 3v4, I believe. Wing burning both the ultimate and the flash, getting nothing in return. A huge bleed for the side of IG. But like I've been saying, this Draven is truly the only damage source for this early game because of his item spikes. And Gideon needs to just make something happen. You know, you have the flash available, but you have to be really smart with how you time the enemy's flashes.
It was everything put into the mid lane, wasn't it? It was Gideon consistently trying to pull off that gank, get the summoners that you talk about being so important in this game overall. It never really happened, and although IG do get that catch in bot, although we saw some success come through of the triple counter-strike, it hasn't gone any further than that. The game has lulled about a little bit now, 16 minutes with only 5 kills available. Perfect for JDG's pacing, Kitty, based on what you said. I am curious though, because, you know, for YSKM on this Jack, he's been a little bit quiet himself, bar that one team fight. I'm wondering how side lanes look a little bit later on with YSKM on this Jack, obviously to be in control and play the standard IG that we know, which is YSKM sits in the side lane, Dove as well, put pressure on this map, and then IG converge.
Yeah, but this time around, Dove is locked in with that Renekton mid lane, and I'm afraid that this champion won't scale as well compared to neny on the Jayce, and of course the Sion in that top lane. And of course, if we reach the later end of the game where YSKM is online, I think neny just has a better time as that Jayce into Jack's matchup where it's up to skill, but 369 is also not talking about skill. He's going in. The
train gets his counterpart. YSKM blocking the damage, though. Curtain calls good as TP comes through. Dove now flying through the whirling death. Gorgeous damage as 369 has to flash away as well. That was all over the Herald, which YSKM gets in the end. And those summoners, Kitty, you talked about being important. Unfortunately, it was only the flash from the Sion to be taken down.
IG does secure the Herald at the 17-minute mark, and neny has just been peacefully farming the bottom lane of this game. And of course, no one really died as a result of this Herald trade, which is still really good for the side of JDG because you don't want to be bleeding early on into the game up against a Renekton, Elise, and Draven that do want to be forcing these team fights. We also have the Essence Reaver in Arn's pockets now, so come on, Gideon. We know that 369, yes, I know that only his flash was burnt, but we gotta have something happen because I'm getting worried as Dragon is spawning in 33 seconds.
Again, Gideon hasn't done much outside of the mid lane. You know, I guess transgression, whatever happened there for the first 5-6 minutes of the game. That was his contribution and nothing else so far, as here in 13.1, water cleared with a 3-hit shot from Wink, but then moving down after clearing that out is going to be the setup for Dragon. At least that Umbral is going to help them clear out some of the rest of the vision as YSKM uses the Herald in the meanwhile by himself. And Kitty, look at the TP timing for this neutral once more. Yeah. YSKM has to drop it and walk down because teleport once more is not up and available.
Dove does have a pretty sneaky flank here. He is walking from the bottom side. So if he's able to get his hands onto the carries of JDG, this could be something good. It doesn't happen though.
Whirling Death is up and available here for Arn, clearing out the mid-wave yet again and walking down. Kanavi's angle also brilliant as Barrel Roll just helps out find some vision. Now IG start this Dragon, but missing with the arrows. Someone I want you to pay attention to, the explosive cast from Kanavi too. Look at the TP up, 369 sets up the turret. He's going to line it all up and down. Dragon's taken, but Arn is the direct target. To escape that one, you have no chance. Ruler with a 4-shot, perfectly lined. As Wink is now the squishiest that support left in no man's land. YSKM flashes to get the kill, but missing gets out. He's dead too. IG, that Dragon cost them everything.
They plus 5 minutes to deny the Dragon Soul, but what does it mean? Arn dies, Wink dies, YSKM falls as a result of that, and just 369 in these teamfights on the Sion, unkillable, especially once he gets his hands onto the AD carry of IG. He just doesn't have a way out, and you saw how well JDG played that teamfight. They were solely focusing on the pure damage source of Arn, and once he dies, well, IG kind of just scatters.
Well, Kanavi's got to flash away, though. It's a good pick out, but he gets dubbed. It's a 1-for-1. Unfortunate, but at least they get something. I wish I could say, but 369 meanwhile is trading up again.
They're just trading more for more, and I'm afraid that JDG isn't slowing down. Jhin already having that bounty available. National.
Okay, not going to hit, but hang on. Nice damage will. That was huge. Already ramping up a 2-item Jayce. Kitty, your concerns were very just as we look at this again, and Arn is just free of any front line.
Yeah, I mean, IG is just solely focusing on getting this dragon, but they forgot that Sion goes right onto Draven, and the target selection from JDG was perfect, especially from Ruler landing that 4th shot onto the AD carry. And this entire fight was just kind of a struggle for IG because you don't have that damage to finish anyone off now. YSKM even burning the flash, really good prediction from missing. Dodges that, but there's more fighting.
He's nuked. Bye-bye Link. He just gets explosive cast out of the replay by Kanavi. And this is more like it from JDG. IG have struggled in this early game to get much more than that 1.5k gold lead. But JDG, again, showing this great resilience and this win con understanding. Now taking over the game with an engage from missing yet again. Destroyed with the help of Ruler. IG are now just getting torn to pieces as Knight goes in under turret. No care whatsoever as they juggle the arrow perfectly. The aggro, rather, and Kitty, Jing Dong are now 3,000 gold up in a matter of minutes.
They can't do Baron just quite yet because Gideon is still alive, so there is that 50-50 Baron flip, just in case, you know, you don't want to be throwing when you're in such a winning position of JDG, and this is probably the best game we've seen.
Well, look at the replay again. Kitty's run me through because we didn't see this, but Wink got absolutely nuked. I don't know if Kitty's muted in my ear, in anyone else's. She has disappeared. There is a storm in Sydney. Has Kitty been taken by the storm? I don't know. But you know what that means? It means I get the solo cast. Ladies and gentlemen, there's bad stuff going on in Sydney and there's bad stuff on the Rift. This is my role. I get to talk about this. Wink is destroyed at the left-hand side. Arn in the middle. This has now just become yakety sacks. As Invictus Gaming kept looking for picks, Kitty told you before she went into that starry night that Invictus Gaming simply needed to snowball the early game and then it would be all Gucci from there. Now we are going to try and recover Kitty's net in Sydney right now. I'll let you all know. My house is under a gum tree and it is pretty much like IG's game. It's going to get obliterated if this wind continues. So game 1 for me might be over pretty soon as well, as 1.5k, that Baron is down. Look at the replay. Now, running you all through this replay, I can give you a quick update that 369 has just had some of the best ulti engages here in this game. Arn goes to the spinning axe, arrow locks him down, and will just be destroyed by Ruler. But on the left-hand side of the fight, the TP from Dub, they want to come in, try and get that split before Ruler joins in, but they just can't kill anyone anymore. Knight's damage is overwhelming, missing as well as engages. Counter engages rather are huge. And 369, speaking of unkillable, there's the king of it. 007 in the top lane. We all know that Bond, he never dies in the movies, does he? IG now gearing up around this fourth dragon, excuse me. But what can they do here? They're damage limited. IG's 80 carry with 2.5 items, it would be relevant, but the Sion is matching that now as well. And his dragon's about to spawn in 10 seconds. It's the early engagement from 369. Let's see if he can finally die. 3 members there, but the arrow follows through. 369 has taken no damage. Gideon is blasted to the side. YSKM jumps in, but it's all for naught. As JDG gets poked down, missing is down. Winky, winky. Blinky and you miss it. As Dove now, he's ready to frontline this one. They've got a numbers advantage, but look at the health bars. So damn low here from IG as we're running back in. It looks like IG are going to try to still take the fight at 369. He's taking so much damage. Gideon running forward, piercing arrow yet again. Arn running forward as well as this dragon at 4k. Going down there, holding there, turning the fight instead as Ruler's last shot doesn't need to connect. Knight takes out the mid laner while Wink takes half HP. 369 with a beautiful knock-up, and Knight will follow through for the rest. IG have gotten a little bit lucky here, a couple of great picks, but it's not enough in the end as JDG have fully completed the circle of life in this game. Looking for the final kill. With this Baron buff, they should be able to take a lot of this standing gold. The next dragon as well. 20 seconds on those death time, as you can see Ruler right now blasting through turrets as well. And I have to say, you know, JDG, the concerns we raised at the start, I think they've really cemented. They've really cemented themselves still as a top-tier team. This was an important matchup, and even though it's a best of 3, this game 1 was going to show us whether JDG were back in charge. Ruler especially having a really rough time recently. I think missing alongside him as well could be said the same. But maybe no longer, as that combo was the nuke into the boopers. Duff's going to be knocked up on the back end. JDG get away safely. That dragon's still not taken, but it looks like the bottom lane takes it. Kitty! Welcome back. Good luck in Sydney.
Red team has slain the dragon.
IG tried to fight. They did a little bit of fighting. It was good stuff. And then JDG just returned to not being able to die. Knight is 1v2ing. Kitty, this is what you miss. JDG just styling. You know, you see the people walk out of Gucci with those, like, 3 bags, and you're like, man, those people have money. That's JDG right now.
Blue team's inhibitor has been destroyed.
True.
Blue team's turret has been destroyed.
Yeah. Don't worry, look, you work that out again. The wind is blasting my house right now, Kitty. I don't know how I survived, you didn't. But I can understand the internet right now not being too great. It does feel like the apocalypse is. IG, we'll look at this replay. And this is just brilliant. Has to dodge arrow or Sion. And unfortunately, he has to get hit by one. And that opens up the base in the end as well. And for IG just to kind of get dotted on with their eyes and T's. As Wink narrowly surviving that one as well. So, go for it. Holy crap. Yep. Again, Gideon's early game, Kitty, as I can confirm. The window's shut, the area is safe and locked down. That Gideon's early game wasn't really there, and it was a shame because we've seen so much from Gideon in the early game. We've seen so much from this guy taking over the first 15 minutes of the game, or at least solidifying it for his solo laners, or dare I say bottom lane that's been coming in cracking. It's now, at this point, Kitty, I mean, this game, we know it's over. It's a 12k gold lead, 27 minutes in. JDG are just doing everything. Kitty, we're going to be jumping in and out, don't worry. You know, if we survive this first series, we've done well.
In my own microphone. This is going to be really trippy, but I will try my best. 369 looking for another engage.
Okay, well, at the very least, Knight comes in from the flank. That wasn't even an elevated shock blast as Wink just goes down. 369 has been under turret for a millennia. You'd think he'd be hurting by now as he just heals it back up. Of course, Kanavi going back in too. Goes golden for the nick of time. YSKM is trying. Look at this top laner. Try to keep this game alive, but it ain't enough. Arn jumps on in. It gets a bit messy for JDG, but Ruler stays standing. Knight gets the kill, and this is JDG to take. It's not the end of the game here, Kitty. At least it will be another open inhibitor.
I'm so sorry, everyone, but I wasn't connected to the broadcast until 3 seconds ago, but I am back.
No.
I'm so sorry. The storm took my internet out, but of course, all it took for my net was that JDG wins his first series and they're back on their feet as the super team of LPL.
Yeah, one game it might only be, but still JDG with a good showing to open up this series. Whether it's internet or IG getting slaughtered, it feels the same right now. A bit of a disconnect in the early game. I'll have to see how IG close that out in game 2, but JDG, just keep on trucking, man. That was beautiful.
That was a very beautiful mid to early game from the side of JDG, and obviously we saw the intentions of IG's team composition. The Elise, the Renekton, of course the Draven, they were going full banging for that early game, but they just weren't able to get the early kills, especially onto the carries where you're Renekton up against a Jayce, where you are looking for those mid-game skirmishes. But if everyone's too hesitant to engage, then you're just going to eventually bleed as you can't match the damage and the amount of health from the Sion.
And you nailed those compositions really well, Kitty. Like, you told us that it was going to come down to a lot of this early game and how Gideon plays out on this Elise. We also talked a lot about the bottom lane 2v2, and I think this time around it was better, but as you also identified, Ruler Missing had a decent enough start where that Draven couldn't really fly through the game, considering at level 1, Missing, or rather, excuse me, our Wink on Varus was put down to half HP in the early lane.
Yeah, I mean, as that Draven Varus lane, you never want to be leashing. I think Elise can just do the red buff purely fine by herself. So that was a bit of a
Yeah.
misplay from the side of IG, and that kind of just snowballed into, of course, the first 2 early dragons going to the hands of JDG, and they were pressured for that dragon soul point where they were forced to take the 5v5, and without a pick, I'm afraid, on this Elise or Renekton, or even without a flank, then these 5v5s are looking extremely impossible, because 369 is just an absolute built fridge in that top lane.
He was indeed. And again, he did really well in the lane matchup. Like, YSKM didn't have an advantage, which is rare to say. We talked about top lane Kitty and the champion pool there within, where we're saying 369 at the moment is more of a role player, more of like a tank top, bruiser top. Like, that's why the Gragas was seen as his, because he has been pulling this out time and time again. But even against YSKM, when the matchup for YSKM, you know, we talk about this guy taking over top lane, he got no attention and therefore wasn't able to do anything against 369. And outside of one skirmish, YSKM had a pretty, I guess, quiet game as well.
Yeah, I mean, I believe my microphone wasn't connected to the broadcast, but my main point was that Kanavi is having a really good performance on this Gragas, topping the damage charts, even doing more than Knight's Jayce. But I think from his series up against EDG, he definitely had the roughest time. We saw him that he wasn't really communicating well with his solo laners, but this game is really a redeeming game for Kanavi to just come back and say, hey, I'm a really good jungler, but just give me the early game and I'll play around you and I'll carry you on this AP Gragas.
Again, Kanavi, 27% of his team's damage. Meanwhile, on IG, Wink did 31%. Varus support did 31% of his team's damage. Like, yeah, Wink had some really good engages there. And I will say, again, like, this bottom lane is full of surprises, even in a loss. It was a 29-minute loss at that, and JDG getting back on top is a good story. But I'm curious how drafts change here, Kitty. We're going to reset, go to game 2, and see if IG have anything in the tank against JDG, or if JDG are going to